Hi guys, welcome to Unit 3 Key Concepts Review for the AP exam. I hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, and staying healthy. All right, trivia question for you. If I want to listen to classical music, who do I put on in the classroom? Did you say Yo-Yo Ma? Then you were right. We're going to go with that question today. How many of you like Yo-Yo Ma? Okay, let's talk about that with an observational study versus an experiment. Okay, so first let's talk about that observational study. I have that phrase, observe, don't disturb. Now, what I could do is imagine me, I'm in the classroom and people are walking into the classroom. And on the way in, I just decide the first 10 people that come to the classroom, I'm going to ask them if they like Yo-Yo Ma or not. Is that okay? No, because it's not random. That's an important thing. So how do we randomize a study? The three ways that the College Board is looking for is, do you know what an SRS is, a stratified random sample, and a cluster sample? So let's first talk about the SRS, and we're going to use the hat method to help describe that, okay? You do need to know how to use table D as well, but I'm going to do a separate video on that because I want to try to keep this as short as can be. An SRS with one hat. That's where I would have everyone in the classroom write their name on the same size sheet of paper. I'd put their names in a hat. I'd shake the hat up, pull out, if I wanted to answer, or I wanted to ask 10 of you, pull out 10 names, okay? That's an SRS. Simple. But is there a chance if I pulled out 10 names, they could be all girls or all boys or mostly girls or mostly boys? Remember, we want our sample to represent our population, and our classroom's not all girls or our classroom's not all boys. So what do? We could stratify it using two hats, and you can use more than two hats, but right now I'm talking about female versus male. Okay, so what would I do with a stratified random sample? I would have a hat for females and a hat for males. I'd have all males write their name on equal size sheets of paper, put it in a hat, shake it up, call out 5 boys. Do the same for girls. Call out 5 girls. That would be my sample there, the 5 boys and the 5 girls. Why do we like that method? Well, it ensures that that sample is more representative of the population, and that's the goal, okay? Now, let's move to a bigger scale. What if I cared about the whole school? Now, I could do an SRS, and I could call 100 people. Or I could do all females, all males of the school, and do 50 females, 50 males. That would be a stratified. But that takes a lot of time and possibly money, depending on if I'm doing this for pay, right? So a cluster sample would be the most efficient, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. A cluster sample would be, hey, I know almost everyone's in an advisory, so I'm going to get all the advisory teachers' names. I'm going to have them put it on equal size sheets of paper, put it in a hat, shake the hat up, pull out maybe 5 advisories. Then what I would do is I would have everyone in the advisory answer the question, do you like Yo-Yo Ma? Now, lastly, it's not on here. Let's talk about a census. That's actually what our nation's going through now. A census really is only good for a small sample size, okay? So like a classroom of 30 would be a perfect example. I could just ask everyone, do you like Yo-Yo Ma? Now, census on a larger scale, there's just some issues. Like there's a reason our government only does it every 10 years to try to sample every single person in this country. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, okay? And then when if you have a very large sample size, sometimes mistakes are more bound to happen. Okay, so let's see here. Make sure you know how to design each sampling method. So we talked about that. Make sure you know the difference. We talked about those. Advantages and disadvantages. I believe I talked about that as well while I was doing that. And know how to describe randomization using a table and a hat. So I'll make a separate video over a table later. Right now, pause the video and write down any questions you might have over observational studies. Okay, now we're going to go to experiments. Let's keep rolling with the whole Yo-Yo Ma stuff. Let's say I really want to see if listening to Yo-Yo Ma increases test scores, okay? So there's 3 different ways that I could do this. I could use the experiment, a completely randomized design, a block design, or a matched pairs design. Now, a completely randomized design is just almost an SRS, kind of. It's just within an experiment. A block design, again, is very similar to a stratified random sample. It's a touch different, but essentially the same when you think about 2 hats, right? It's a block design. And then a matched pairs design is different, and we'll talk about all 3 of these right now. So we have our completely randomized design, okay? A completely randomized design is, let's say I'm going to use you guys as a class, right? So I have my 35 subjects. I'm going to randomly give you a treatment. You're either going to listen to Yo-Yo Ma or you're not while you're studying at home. Now, granted, there's not a lot of control there and stuff, but just let's roll with it, okay? So I randomly put half of you to group 1 and half of you to group 2. Now, how do I randomly do that? There's a couple different ways. What I would do is I would just have all of you put your names on a sheet of paper again, right? And then I would pull out the first, 17 names and then the next 18 names. Do they have to be equal? No, if I have a class of 35, they're not going to be. So I'd put all your names in a hat, equal size sheets of paper, shake it up. The first 17 kids go to group 1, the rest go to group 2. Then you get your treatment, okay? So treatment 1, your group, you guys would listen to classical. You'd listen to Yo-Yo Ma for during the unit. Maybe I'd give them to you as headphones or whatever it may be in the classroom. You can envision it. And then group 2, you get no music, okay? That's our control. And then what I would do then is I would compare your scores after 2 weeks. Now, while you're describing a simple random sample, a completely randomized design, it's really important to talk about who are your subjects, how they randomly get there using the hat method, what the treatments are, and then what are you going to actually measure? I'm going to look at the average test scores, okay? All right, so that's your completely randomized design. Let's talk about the block design. There is a chance now, okay, and we could talk about, well, I hate talking about gender with stuff, but let's go for it for now, okay? Let's just pretend that, let's rewind. Let's not talk about gender. Let's play pretend and let's say that our class had an equal amount of juniors and an equal amount of seniors in the class. So just play pretend with me, okay? Now, what happened if just by chance in a completely randomized design, group 1 had just a ton of juniors in it and not many seniors, okay? Now, let's play pretend when we compared their scores, their average score was significantly higher than group 2. Now we have a problem. Is their average score significantly higher because of the Yo-Yo Ma? Or is it significantly higher because there was way more juniors in that group? So that's called a lurking variable now. So we want to control that, right? So how are we going to control that is we're going to use a block design. So what we do is we separate them into blocks first, okay? And I would put all the juniors in one group and then all the seniors in another group. And then I go through this completely randomized design on both groups. So I randomly put half the juniors in one group, half the juniors in another. One group gets Yo-Yo Ma, the other group does not. I compare the average scores. Again, I do it again here. The seniors, I randomly put half of them in one group, half of them in another. Then one gets Yo-Yo Ma, the other one doesn't. Compare scores. What are the benefits of it? It gives us more control, right? So we can know that the treatments, let me rewind. So we know that the response, the results, the test score is actually because of Yo-Yo Ma listening to it and not because of some lurking variable that there was more juniors in the group. So you need to be able to explain why is it important? What's the purpose of that? And that's what I just did. So rewind and hear that out if you need to. I'll say it again one more time. We blocked, right? Because we wanted to know that the result, our average test score, was because of listening to Yo-Yo Ma and not because there was more juniors in the group. Okay, finally, the matched pairs design. That was the one where I talked about the Ugg boots and spray. Okay, that would be where I would have you guys get both treatments. So one way we could do it is we would flip a coin and we could say, okay, I have headphones for everyone. Everyone's got, Yo-Yo Ma on their phone or whatever. Okay, so that's my control. I go and I flip a coin for each person. So the first person, Paige, I'm just envisioning a classroom where she sits right in the front upper right-hand corner, okay? So I would flip a coin. She would get heads or tails. If she got heads, she would listen to Yo-Yo Ma. If she got tails, then she would listen to no music. Again, I would do that for Natalie. I think Natalie sits right in front. I don't know if Natalie sits by her that hour or the other. It doesn't matter. But I would do that again, okay? Flip a coin, right? Heads, tails, whatever you get, that's the music you listen to. Everyone gets either Yo-Yo Ma or not. We listen for 2 weeks and then take a test. And then we do it again 2 weeks longer. Take another test and see what worked better. Okay, what worked better. You have to get both treatments. Now, I don't necessarily like that Yo-Yo Ma example, so let me just, as much as I like the boot example, so let me just jog your memory. I told everyone you're all getting a pair of Ugg boots or Timberlands or whatever kind of boot you guys like, okay? And we talked about getting the new spray, the waterproof spray versus the old spray. And you get both sprays, right? And you randomly flip a coin, your left, you flip a coin for your left foot. If it's heads, you get the new spray. Tails, you get the old spray. And then the other one goes on the other foot. You walk around for 2 weeks. You give me the boots back. And I look at the difference in your boots, right? So I look at those differences. I think that's kind of a better way to think about it. And it just jogs your memory from being in class. Okay. So I look at the difference. So both treatments, that's the key. If you have questions, if I wasn't clear enough, make sure that you ask. But either way, we're looking at the difference. Did Yo-Yo Ma help each student? So if it was Yo-Yo Ma, I'd be looking at one test score versus the other. Look at the difference. Now, the issue with the Yo-Yo Ma one that I take or that I have is, well, if they're different tests, there's some lurking variables there. But nonetheless, they still get 2 treatments. We look at the differences. We used randomization, okay? Forgive me if you were confused on that, just let me know, and I'm more than willing to make a longer video on one. Okay, let's finish this up. We're coming to the 12-minute mark. I'd like to be done by 15 minutes if all possible. Principles of experimental design. Make sure you have control. I've already talked a little bit about that. Randomization, replication. Okay, so I've talked about randomization. Randomization is making sure they randomly get to those different groups. Control, I've talked about controlling for lurking variables, having a control group, having a placebo group. What is a placebo? A placebo is a sugar pill, okay? Just for a reminder on that. Oops. Okay, lurking variables and confounding bias. What I think I'm actually going to do right now is I'm just worried that the videos are getting too long and I want you guys to be watching them. Like I spend time making them, and to be honest, well, this time it's only my second try, but sometimes I restart like 4 times. So I really want you guys to be watching it, taking it in, so on and so forth. So take a break right now. I'll post another video later. And just, yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I miss you guys, and I hope, everything's going okay, and we'll get through this, okay? Okay.